England will be looking for any kind of positives against Fiji after a third week. My name is Mark, let's talk rugby. England v Fiji, it's at Twickenham Stadium in London. It's on Saturday the 20th of August and kick-off is 3:15 BST. Okay, so we'll have a quick look at both teams and then after that we will have a closer look at the England team. I still don't know all that much. I did see Fiji last week, but still not enough to comment too much on their players. So I'll just, as I go through their team, I'll make some comments there. But England lineup, so fullback is Freddie Stewart, right wing Max Maylands, the centres Ollie Lawrence and Manu Tuilagi, left wing is Johnny May, the halfbacks George Ford and Alex Mitchell, the front row Ellis Gaines, Theo Dan and Dan Cole, the second row Mauro Toji and Ollie Chesham, back row Courtney Laws, Jack Willis and Ben Earl. On the bench then we've got Jack Walker, Joe Marler, Will Stewart, Dave Ribbons, Lewis Ludlam, Danny Kerr, Marcus Smith and Joe Merchant. The Fiji squad then, we have Aroni Maui, Sam Matabesi and Luke Taggi. So, went well against France last week. The scrum kind of went back and forth between the two last week. So, expect them to give England at least some problems there. Maybe not going to be dominant, but certainly should be able to at times hold their own. But I would imagine England will get the odd penalty as well. Then into the second row, we've got Asoa, Nasila Sila, and Te Ahiwaru Sirikida Veta. So I think they might be the same second row that started last week, but they're very competitive against France, getting up there and trying to disrupt and stuff. And, with England as well, with Itoji likes to disrupt as well. It's probably going to be a tough day for the hookers, I'd imagine, from both teams. Back row then we got Albert Tuisui, had a really good game against France as well. Got Lakima, Tagi Balu, and Bill Mata. Bill Mata really carried well against France. There were times though when he got a little bit isolated, but overall, he was a nuisance at the breakdown as well, and had a really good impact there. Halfbacks then we got Frank Lomani and Caleb Muntz. I thought Caleb Muntz did really well against France as well. Moved his team around the park fairly well, and overall just kind of impressed with him. But I haven't really seen him all that much before. On the wings then we got Vinaya Habosi and Celestino Rabuto Mada. Can't really tell you all that much about them really. Didn't really stick out to me at least. One person who did though in the centres was Semi Radradra. So he had an excellent game last week as well. Got partnering him Waisea Naya Kalevu. Again, not a player that I'm all that familiar with, if I'm honest with you. Then the bench as well, not too many players to jump out to me. So you got Tugia Tama, Goroi Dua, Tawake, Maya Navanua, Mira, Kuruvoli, Tela, and Ravuvua. So yeah, not, as I said, not many players that are all that familiar with me, but as a collective, I think they really put it up to France last week. And, they might not they might not, be favourites to beat this England team, but they certainly will give them a good test. England are one of those teams where, they still have that ability to put, even when they're not like in great form, to sometimes put up a score on a team where the likes of maybe Ireland or a Wales might struggle against, let's say this Fiji team, and get over the line eventually. But England have that ability to just kind of have a blowout against them. And like the last time that the two teams played was, I think, let me just double check when it was. So it was back in 2016, was the last one I could find at least. And that was England 58, Fiji 15. So that was, I think, the record score between these two teams. England, they played 7 times. England had won all of them. So it would be a massive shock if Fiji were to win this one. And, I don't think it's going to be that much of a blowout, because this Fiji team are better than the 2016 Fiji team, and I think this England team are worse than their 2016 counterparts. Although even like that 2016 team, they went into, they kind of had an up and down period around then as well, right? They kind of hit form well though for the 2019 World Cup, but they had at least a couple of Six Nations titles around then, I think, as well, going into that World Cup. So, I think they were probably a better side than we're seeing at the moment. But, this England team, they're not that far off being a decent side. They had a poor Six Nations, but you look at them, there's definitely talent in the team. It's just finding those combinations and getting it to click, on a consistent basis as well. Because we've seen England produce decent performances, even with, the players that they have at the moment. And I said it before, I think the problem with England and with the Premiership is that there are a lot of very good players, English players in the Premiership, who at the Premiership level can look like they are actually world class rather than very good. And then when they make up this step up to test level, you find out that they're actually, not quite at the level where you would expect for a test player to be. And the fact that England have so many players available to them, it means that players who could maybe learn on the job, as it were, at test level, generally don't get the chance. They have 1 or 2 bad games, and the next player, in line gets the chance instead of them, and you end up with this kind of cycle of, player has a couple of good games, he's the next best player, he's next best thing since sliced bread, then has 1 or 2 bad games, and he's completely out in the cold and somebody else is in. I think that's what the kind of problem that England are kind of struggling at the moment, is that they're players who could be world class, they could find it very hard to kind of sift through the players who are of a similar level to find those players. But if we do have a closer look at the England team, so we've got Stewart there, fullback. There's talk of Marcus Smith potentially being, and even Borthwick saying it, being a starter at fullback. I don't know why, honestly. Maybe they're looking at, other teams having a second player or playmaker, a fullback, the likes of, Willemse and Willie LaRue for the Springboks. And then you have Kinghorn for Scotland as well, and I'm thinking that, well, maybe it's a way to get Marcus Smith into the team. But for me, like the back line for England, the one kind of stand out as a kind of consistent performer and, someone who looks like they've absolutely nailed down their spot is Freddie Stewart. I think most people, when they think of England and ask them, like, pick a decent back from the current England team, they're going to say Freddie Stewart is the guy. So I don't know why there's this talk of having Smith in there ahead of him. I think that's just going backwards and stupid. And it's one of these things of trying to get Smith into the team, shoehorn him into the team somehow. I feel like Smith being back there, he's going to absolutely get targeted by other teams. People think, oh, kick the ball to Smith, he's going to run it back and he's going to make a fool of you, etc., etc. But I genuinely believe that if he's fullback and other teams kick to him and have decent kick chases where they're, either their own fullback or wings or whoever are arriving at the same time as the ball, then Smith is going to be in trouble up there competing. Freddie Stewart, I don't think so. I think Freddie Stewart has shown he can really compete in the air, and because of that, teams aren't going to kick to him. They're going to kick probably to the wings instead, if they can, that is. So I'm not sure why all the stuff with Marcus Smith at fullback is there, but it is a topic of discussion at least. Right wing, then you got Max Malins. I think he's probably going to be the right wing starter for the World Cup now that you have Anthony Watson is out of the World Cup. Very sad for that as well, because he kind of went out of favour. He had his injury problems. He came back, looked like it was kind of a great story for him to be able to go to the World Cup now. But now he's injured and he's out of it. So I don't think they've called up a replacement for him. But I think because of that, Malins is going to be the starting right wing, unless, until probably falls out of favour with the English press and then somebody else gets put on there, maybe Marcus Smith. Centres, then you got Ollie Lawrence and Manu Tuilagi. Looks like that's going to be the starting centre combination. Again, Tuilagi, he looked okay against Ireland. But still, he is very one-dimensional. Now, it's one dimension when it works really well. Like, he is a hard runner. But Merchant and Lawrence as a centre combination for me is more exciting. But I can see why they're going for this. It's because they want someone to kind of give a focus to their attack and to run straight lines and bust up, but they have to be able to take advantage of that. And we haven't seen them do it yet. They have started to click a little better in the back line, but even though like moves are starting to come together, have looked a little clueless at times as well as to what to do once they go beyond a certain number of phases. So we're going to have to see whether that can develop. Lawrence is a decent at 13. I think he's probably their best option there, honestly. Johnny May on the left wing. Again, he's one of these players where a couple of years ago he was setting the world alight, and now not so much, but still, he still has, he still has pace, and he still is a threat. It's just a case of whether his all-around game is good enough, especially now that teams, if you have a decent kicking winger, and I'm not sure kicking out of hand is May's really strong point, but you can see kind of ways in there, because there was a lot of players who were given chances through the Six Nations and they really didn't deliver, so they went back to tried and trusted. I think the halfbacks, then you got George Ford, who's in there because Owen Farrell is suspended. He's got a 4-match suspended, backdated before the game against Ireland, so he was stood down for that, and they decided that because he was stood down that it would count. I thought they wouldn't backdate it. I honestly thought that they wouldn't, but they did. So it means that, Japan and Argentina now, either Ford or Smith are going to be the starting 10 for it. I think probably Ford is the best option there. I think, he's the one that, if you want to make that backline work, he's the guy that's going to figure it out. Smith is the guy who's going to make something happen and look fancy and flash, but I don't think he's necessarily going to be the guy that, in terms of the backline working consistently, is actually going to be able to pull it off. But him coming on maybe later in games when defenses are tired, I think is a smart move. Alex Mitchell wasn't initially included in the Rugby World Cup squad, but then unfortunately Van Poortvliet got injured, so he gets a chance there. He could honestly leapfrog the other 2 nines and actually end up starting, depending on again how the others go. But I don't think there's that much between himself and the other 2, so he's got every chance, I think, of forcing his way into the starting team. Front row, then you got Ellis Genge, Theo Dan, and Dan Cole there. You could maybe have Sinclair in there as a starter as well, but again, it could be a starting front row for them. You'll have to see. You got Jamie George as well there, a hooker. So, but it's still a fairly strong front row. The second row combination, Mara Toji and Ollie Chesham, they worked well in the Six Nations. I think that they, that would be my second row combination for them. I think Itoje, he's not quite at the heights that he was before, but he's still an abrasive player, and opposition teams don't like playing against him. I think Chesham complements him very well, and they actually make a decent combination there. The back row, we've got Laws at 6. Is 100 cap as well in this game, so congratulations to him. It's a fantastic achievement, and he really is a stalwart for England. He's stayed in there when so many of the pack have been churned through. You got Jack Willis getting a chance at 7. He had a really good season, so he deserves his chance. Ben Earl, who's been good at 7 in the last couple of games for them, with Bini Vunipola suspended. I think Vunipola is suspended for 2 games. It's 3, but he has to do tackle school, so will be reduced to 2. So Earl will get to start this and probably get to start the first game in the Rugby World Cup as well, and then we'll see after that whether it's straight back in for Billy or not. But I think in terms of back row, it looks like a decent one without Billy. I still think that Billy is a bit of a busted flush for them. He didn't have that much impact against Ireland. The most memorable, other than the red card, the most memorable thing from him was that he dropped a kick out on the sideline, not under that much pressure either. So didn't really have much impact. Be interested to see how this back row goes. I think it probably is their best combination of the available players, but again, they have that problem of if these guys don't go well, if they're under pressure against Fiji, there will be calls for rip it up and start again and bring other players in. But I think if these guys are actually given a chance, they could actually gel as a decent unit for them. Let them play through this game and then into the first few games in the World Cup and see how they go as a unit rather than swapping and changing all the time. On the bench then, Jack Walker is probably the third choice of the hookers. You got Joe Marlowe there. Joe, I think I always love to see him involved because he's always got something to say, and he's always a bit funny, and he likes to wind up the opposition and stuff like that. But he's still a decent player. Sometimes things don't go his way in the scrum, but you can say that about pretty much every prop. Porter has been for Ireland as well, absolutely excellent. Loose head, but has been struggling in scrum time at times as well. And Furlong and tight head hasn't actually looked fit. But back to England, you got Will Stewart there in the tight head as well. He's looked decent when he's come on, but again, I'm not sure whether he's someone who is really going to give you a dominant scrum either. Dave Ribbons, probably with Itoje and Chesham, they're for me, they're like the three locks that you're going to have in your match day 23. You got Lewis Ludlam there. He could play 6, he could play 8. I think, and that's going to be the thing, right? Is if Ben Earls doesn't go well in this at 8, you're going to have calls for Ludlam to be given a shot at 8 instead, and that's where you get that problem of just churning through the players. So I think you got Danny Kerr there, replacement 9. I think starting 9 for England is absolutely up in the air, so he could do himself, a decent turn if he does well off the bench. Marcus Smith, we spoke about him. For me, just don't play the guy fullback. Either he's playing a 10, or because what are you going to do? Like I've seen before where they played him at 10 and they kind of try to hide him at fullback for the defensive line. But you really, for me at least, you don't want him as your starting 15 when you have Freddie Stewart available. But as a 10, I can see what he gives you as a 10. He can run a back line. He's got a great pass. He is very aggressive in terms of, attacking the line. He's got a great step on him. He's got some good pace, and, he can make things happen on the field, and he's very exciting. So yeah, I've no problem with him starting at 10 or being 22 for them and coming off the bench. But I just think that starting with fullback would not be good. Joe Merchant there at 23. He's probably going to come on in the centres for, I think, did he come on for Lawrence last time rather than Tuilagi? I'm not sure, but he's probably going to come on for one of those two, barring injuries and having to come on for someone else. But what do we think? How do I think this game is going to go? Well, Fiji did give France a real go last week, but France were able to come through in that game. I think even this poor England team probably will be able to get over the line and beat them. But I think, honestly, it's going to be a better performance from England. I think it's going to be a very inspiring performance from Fiji. It's actually going to be a close game. I think England are probably going to stretch away towards the end, but they will have a scare from Fiji, and you're going to have people thinking, we from England's point of view, saying we did badly because we didn't put 50 points on Fiji. If they don't. As I said, England have that ability to kind of do it when even with mediocre teams, they can just click and do it. But if it's a close game, you're going to have people saying that, should have beaten Fiji by more. But this is a decent Fiji team, and they're going to give both Australia and Wales a run for the money in the pool as well. And, they are a genuine contender to reach the quarterfinals for, for the first time in a very long time for a number of World Cups, that we said that about them. So, England having a close victory against them would not be, something to be embarrassed about. I think it's a good game for England as well, because they needed to get those combinations going. You can see that they're kind of close to, in the back line, to clicking a little bit. And, I think now it's about try and keep those combinations together and get them to click. For Fiji, as I said, if they can put in another decent performance, it's going to fill them with such confidence going into that vital Rugby World Cup pool for them.